Hello, this is Dread from Epic Builds, and in today's video topic, apparently I need to make this video. So, if you're new to Last Epoch, or just, haven't been playing in a while, I would heavily suggest stacking some armor. Why is that? Well, in Last Epoch currently, sure, we have resistances, but we don't really have much defenses on top of resistances. So, we don't have like max res like in Path of Exile. We don't have easy access to damage reduction. So generally, one of the best ways of stacking damage reduction in the game right now is armor. So the way armor works is right now I have 639, right? It scales up on like a linear path. And armor is only 70% effective against non-physical damage. So right now, I'm reducing armor hits by 27%, like physical hits, and mitigating everything else by 19%. This is really strong. So right now, for reference, right, if we're going to talk about this in Path of Exile terms, 19% less damage taken from Necrotic Void Lightning. That's like as if you have 5%, like 5% max res, right? Obviously, it's a little different because Last Epoch scales her res in a different way, but this is an insane amount of armor for this level. Now, one of the problems is armor scales with area level. So, Dread, how do I check my armor? Well, thankfully, there's a nice little tool here called Tunklabs. I'll be leaving this down in the description, right? Now, right now we're at 639 armor. That's actually not that much. So we'll go like 700-ish. That's about 19% damage reduction while at level 100 content, right? Now, you must be wondering, Dread, how do your builds survive against like T4 Jurla? How do they not feel terrible when you play them? Because when I play your build, it feels terrible. The secret is probably armor related. So let's just hack and slash this training dummy real quick. I'm stacking what is known as throne stacks, and that is because of my idol. It's called Throne of Ambition, right? Throne of Ambition is a really strong idol right now. Essentially, it gives us 20% armor per stack. We get one stack every single time we hit a boss with a 1 second cooldown, right? And now we're already at 20 stacks. We have 5,235 armor. Now, the problem is, like I said, the zone level's 47, so this is actually wrong. So let's look over here. 537 armor, right? 5,000, I mean. Let's look. We have 64% reduction in terms of physical damage and 45% reduction in non-physical damage. That is an absolute crap ton of just generic DR that I pretty much got by having a Throne of Ambition. Throne of Ambition is one of, if not one of the strongest items currently in Last Epoch, if you did not know, because of this fact, because you can stack armor, because you're able to stack armor when it matters, i.e. when you're fighting Oribus, or when you're fighting a boss like T4 Jurla. Obviously, armor isn't the only thing that's going to save you, because there's a lot of different enemies that deal high amounts of damage over time, but that'll be for a different video. Now, how do you stack armor, right? I get asked this a lot as well. How do you stack armor? Well, different classes have different ways of stacking armor, so we're going to go through every single one. So, Rogue specifically, Blade Dancer, right? One of its ways of stacking armor is through perfection stacks. So, the way perfection works is you get 2 stacks on hit, and it maxes out at 10 stacks, right? And you get 50 armor per stack. So you get around 500 flat armor. That is a lot of flat armor. Why is that a lot of flat armor, Dread? Well, with Throne of Ambition max up, like with all stacks, 20 stacks, 200%, that is about 1,500 armor you're getting in the end. Now, if we were to look at the thing here, if you just had perfection stacks, you didn't have any armor on gear at all, nothing. That right there is 30% DR. That is what Throne of Ambition is representing, right? Obviously, perfection stacks, you lose them after getting hit, but most of the time when you're playing a rogue build, that's usually what happens, right? Is you get hit once. That is ridiculous, as it's literally just one idol for 30% DR, right? That's disgusting. There are a lot of other places that you can get armor that's generic, like you can get it on armor. You can get it on a belt. Belt's really good too. Any amount of armor you get is just essentially multiplied by 3 thanks to Throne of Ambition on most builds. Some builds get increased armor, but most builds rely upon Throne of Ambition. So that's where Blade Dancer gets most of their armor. Marksman just doesn't get any armor scaling at all. Marksman has a few problems in regards to that, but that's like Blade Dancer and Marksman, right? Let's talk about Sentinel, shall we? I'm waiting for it. Let's talk about Sentinel. Sentinel has some of the highest armor scaling in the game, the only class that beats it currently right now, and that's with Primalist, right? So where does all your armor on Sentinel come, right? Like, look at this build, 1600 armor already without any like throne stacks at all. That's because you get like high bases like this, you get 300 mana on stuff like this, you get armor on this, you get armor everywhere on Sentinel, right? Now, the best place currently to stack armor on Sentinel is through Sigils of Hope. That's because of this node. You can have 4 sigils, right, equaling 800 flat armor, right? Now let's take that into account with like let's take that into account with the Throne of Ambition, right? 800 armor times 3, right? That is around 2400 DR. Against Orbis, or against like any enemy, be honest, that's 41% DR from physical damage, right? And 30% DR from non-physical damage. That's just 40% less physical damage taken, or 30% less damage taken across the board, just from our Sigils of Hope from any boss fight, right? And of course, less than that in any other fight. Now, let's turn on our sigils, right? I actually have a lot of armor scaling on this build. I get up to just 50% armor right now, in general, in town, because this is a level 100 character, so it scales properly, just off of 3 sigils. We are mitigating 50% of physical and 35% non-physical, right? That is insane. That is absolutely insane for hits. I would feel really tanky, and you can push it even further with Sentinel. There are plenty of places to get armor. You can strength stack. This node's really good because it gives you a bunch of flat armor while also giving you DR. You also can get a lot of armor, I think, right here, thanks to Rallying Block. If you need flat armor, you can get a bunch of armor thanks on potion use, thanks to Infinite Bulwark. This is like half of a Throne of Ambition, by the way. This essentially just doubles all your armor instantly, which is insane because armor is really strong right now. Same thing with Paladin. Paladin can get a lot of armor as well thanks to this node. Sanctuary Guardian, that's 400 flat armor right off the bat. And just looking for places like that give you a bunch of armor like that is absolutely insane, right? That's just Sentinel, right? Sentinel gets a lot of armor scaling, right? Let's look at, I think, Acolyte. Acolyte gets a lot of armor scaling too, just in different places. Let's look at Lich, right? Let's look at Lich. But yeah, armor is really, really strong right now. I heavily advocate building armor on any character. Once you get to the point where you like, oh, I have my resistance cap, build strength, build life and armor, and you will feel amazing on any build, right? So for Acolyte specifically, you have armor here. This isn't that good of a node, right? So I wouldn't usually stack this node. You don't have that much armor on the Lich tree itself, but you do gain a bunch of armor while in Lich form. While in Reaper form. This node right here, you get 4 points of armor flat per intelligence. Most Lich builds get all the way up to 100 intelligence or more. So that means that this is 400 flat armor. And you take that into account with Throne of Ambition, that's 1200 armor right there. That is 26% damage reduction for free. Just for free, for 4 points on Reaper form. Obviously, you got to stack it up with Throne of Ambition, but most builds do that, right? That is nuts, right? That is absolutely nuts. And that's without taking into account Death Seal. Death Seal right here, Desperate Shroud, you gain 10 flat armor per 6 missing health, right? So right now, I have 3k life on this build. I use this, I lose about 2k life, right? 2k life divided by that much would be like about 300 armor, I think. 300-ish armor. And of course, that on top of the other armor scaling here, that's just going to boost your armor through the moon. So that's how you scale armor on Lich. That's currently the best places for scaling armor on Lich. Obviously, you can get something like Titan Heart with a bunch of flat armor. Like there's a bunch of different ways of actually getting armor everywhere. And sometimes when you get an accidental armor roll, it actually ends up helping you more than hurting you, because sometimes it's better to have less HP and more armor, right? Necromancer, it doesn't have any direct ways of scaling armor, but it does have one node inside of it. Where is it? Dread Shade. There's this node. This used to scale off at intelligence, and it was insanely strong, but they nerfed it. Now it scales off vitality. But even then, like we have, like, let's say 20 vitality right now, right? Builds can get way more than 20 vitality currently. Yeah, 20 vitality plus that. That's like 400, 500 armor right there from Dreadshade. You can make it affect you. That's 500 armor. That's scaling with Throne of Ambition. That's a lot of flat armor. That'll make you feel tankier versus a lot of different stuff, right? So that's mainly how you scale armor on Acolyte, is through those three sources. Acolyte's not as armor focused as the other classes, but it still has access. Obviously, you have stuff like the Soul Feast, infinite armor stuff. I'm not going to showcase it because it's rather degenerate, and it's probably going to be removed from the game eventually. Let's go to this naked Beastmaster real quick, right? Let's look at the armor scaling on this Beastmaster. Primalist has some of the most degenerate armor scaling in the entire game. That is through this node, Thicket of Thorns. So you have, eventually when you put all 5 points into it, you get 10% chance to cast Thorn Shield on hit when you get hit. Now right now, you get about 30 armor flat. Obviously, that's not really that much. But thankfully, every single Primalist can spec into Spriggan form, which means that you get access to this node, Aetera's Bulwark. This adds on top of what you already get. So you get 130 flat armor and 25% increased armor per shield, right? Now, obviously, this works even if you're not in Spriggan form. All of these nodes works even if you're not in Spriggan form, right? You could get hit. But let's go to Spriggan form real quick just to show you how ridiculous this gets, right? Right now, we have 26% armor. Look how ridiculous this gets very quickly. That's just from 4, right? It's very easy to get 4 of those when you're in maps and you get hit a bunch, right? It's very easy to get a bunch of stacks of Thicket of Thorn. Even just one stack just catapults your armor scaling, and that gives you significantly more armor. Now you have armor from this node. That's really good armor. You can get extra percentage armor from Aspect of Might while you're in human form or Spriggan form, which is great because armor gives you 4% increased armor per point. This would bring it up to 5, which is great, right? And just through all of that, right, you also get some flat armor while Totem is active. You can get 8 points in this. This is okay. It's like 220 flat armor. It's not like the best, but it's like all you really have. Then, of course, this node, Iron Bark. Is this the node? No, it's this node. 200 flat armor from this node. This plus Silent Protector, that means you get a decent amount of armor on Shaman. And of course, like I said, all of this gets tripled if you're running a Throne of Ambition when you're doing bosses, right? Druid itself can stack a lot of armor. You can get into the tens of thousands very quickly because of that, right? And that's the kind of the point I'm trying to make right now is you can get plenty of armor. So when you see a build that's stacking a very small amount of armor, it may seem like not like that much, but even 30% DR across the board is enough to make any build tankier than normal, right? Just any amount of armor scaling is beautiful. The problem is, one of the biggest problems armor has currently is armor on gear is really Papega? It's not Papega. It's like okay right now. It's kind of meh. Armor skilling right now on gear is kind of meh right now, right? You get like 78 here, 180 here, and even the affixes of armor, it doesn't really perform that well versus like HP. It's just better to slap HP everywhere, which is completely fine. But armor isn't like in the best spot in terms of on affixes on gear. But if you're getting it from skills, you're getting it for perfection, you're getting it from Throne of Ambition, right? Armor is great. So look out for that armor. One of the easiest ways of getting significantly tankier as any build in Last Epoch. With all that being said, this has been Dread from Epic Builds. Make sure to use Tunklabs. Bye!